Hello and welcome to Let's Learn Estonian. In today's lesson, we're going to learn about the word ära because a lot of you have actually asked me to do that. And by the end of this lesson, you should have quite a good understanding how to distinguish between the different meanings that ära has. So before moving forward, let's divide ära into groups. So there are two large groups. One is the imperative ära and one is the adverb ära. Imperative one is quite simple, but the adverb one is more comprehensive. So yes, let's move forward to the first group. So imperative ära, it's negation particle that expresses the prohibition or command, and it's accompanied by a verb. And it's really important to remember that in this case, ära is always in front of the verb. It's never going to be behind. So some example sentences. Ära tee seda. Ära tee seda. And it means don't do that. Next. Ärme sellest rohkem räägi. Ärme sellest rohkem räägi. And that means let's not talk about it anymore. And you can see in both of these cases, ära equals don't. And this is kind of the way you can recognize this ära. If you want to say don't, then you probably use ära. And it doesn't have the meaning of stop, even though it might imply in some cases, it doesn't equal the way it does with don't. So yeah, this first group is quite simple. It's always in the front and it equals don't. So let's move on to the next group. Ära as an adverb. So in this group, ära has quite a lot of different meanings, and that's probably why you guys get confused with it. And it's totally understandable because even when I was doing the research for it, I was like, really? So yeah, let's dive into the different meanings. It has altogether 5 different meanings, but the first meaning group divides into different types. But overall, it's still quite similar meanings. And that's probably why it gets so confusing, because they're so similar. And actually, even when you're looking up some of the Estonian textbooks or the dictionaries where they explain these meanings, it actually says that it's quite difficult to distinguish between the exact meanings, and it really depends on the context. So yes, let's move on to the first meaning, which is in relation to movement. So if you think of the word away, you will hear that a lot, even though there are some other things as well, like take off or removing something, but away is the key word here. So if you hear away, you're likely gonna use ära. So the first type of the first meaning is in connection with someone's movement to somewhere. And as an example sentence, olin 3 aastat ära. And it means I was away for 3 years. And another sentence, ta läks kodust ära. He or she went away from home or left home. But to understand better, away is in there. Hidden in there. So this is quite straightforward. It's understandable. Let's move on to the next type of the meaning. In relation to placing or moving something elsewhere. So if you have something and it's been put away somewhere else, in that case, you would use ta pani raamatu käest ära. And that means he put away the book from his hand. And käest, you can omit that. So you can also say ta pani raamatu ära. And that also means he put the book away. So, but we sometimes use the hands or feet. It depends what the sentence is. So in English, you wouldn't say from hand because it's kind of obvious, but still we sometimes use that. Next type, in connection with driving someone away from somewhere. So think about like telling somebody to leave. And here is an example. Kao ära, which means go away, but it also means disappear away. So kaduma is actually the word disappear. So sometimes we use this word. You can also say mine ära, which means go away, which is literally go away meaning. So the first one is more disappear, and the second one is go. The next type, turning aside from the previous direction. So for example, if a road has an extra windy road that you can turn to, you can say teelt pöörab ära kitsas rada. Teelt pöörab ära kitsas rada. And it means the literal translation would be more like of the road turns away a narrow path. But in English you would say there's a narrow path turning away from the road. And then the next type, obtaining something for oneself or gaining possession. So it's really taking away stuff and doing that kind of movements. Again, it's about the movement. So you can say, võtsin raamatu ta käest ära. Võtsin raamatu ta käest ära. And it means I took the book away from his or her hand. Next type, removing or coming off something from the side, end, or top of something. So this is quite a wide variety of words you can use here, but some of the things are hammas tuli ära, which means the tooth fell out. And in our language we use the word came out. So, but English, it doesn't translate ideally, but the tooth came out is more literal translation. Then we have lõikasin juuksed ära, and here you can say I cut off the hair, because lõikasin refers that it's about me. Now the final one is very similar to the previous one, and that is taking off clothes or shoes. So removing, taking off again, and you can say võta saapad jalast ära. Jalast is in the brackets. You can also say võta saapad ära. And that means take off your boots from your feet. So take off your boots. And here again, it's the similar one with the previous one. To summarize all of these, most of them translate as away, but there are some that are connected to removing or taking off. Let's move on to the second meaning of ära as an adverb. So it can be used together with elative case, typically expressing a state of being out of order or missing something. So you can say klaver on häälest ära, which means the piano is out of tune. And you can see it's out of order in that sense, right? You can say also pesumasin on korrast ära, and that means the washing machine is out of order. You can also say see tuli küljest ära, which means it came off. So again, you can see that it emphasizes either something being out of order or coming off. The third meaning is it's been used as a part of compound verb, giving emphasis to the completion or accomplishment of an action. So you can think here about perfective. So something is fully finished or something is fully learned or anything like that. So you can say sõi kõik ära, which means ate everything, and ate everything up in brackets then. And the similar sentence is söö kõik ära, which means eat it all up. And that's command. So you can use commands as well that are not negative. The fourth and fifth one you'll see are quite interesting. It's hard to catch and you probably not need them as much. The fourth one a little bit more, but the fifth one is quite advanced. And 10 years ago, I might have heard it a lot more, but these days people don't really use that a lot. So the fourth one is forming compound verbs with non-derivable meanings. As an example, nägi, jagas ära. And that means saw, got it. Or to understand better, understood. So this is kind of you got all the information, you understood everything. And the fifth one is in emotionally charged statements, expressing superiority, admiration, acceptance, and so on. And this is really the use that you might hear, but you're probably not going to use it yourself. until you're really comfortable with Estonian language, because even I don't really use these expressions. It's more, back in the day they used it more, but it still exists. And in some cases, when people want to really emphasize something, they will use it. And it depends really where they grew up and what language was spoken. So the fifth one, mis ta siin nii erilist ära ei ütelnud. And that means, what special thing didn't he say? And it's really about the tone of voice and the tone of like the sentence, the meaning. So if you think linguistically, it's really all about the tone. And it just gives the extra tone and the character to the sentence. So in summary, that verb ära has quite a lot of meanings, but most commonly it is used for some sort of movement. So the word away, but it's also used for other meanings, such as the state of something, the completion of action, and emotions, and so on. So I hope that helped. Now, let's move on to the most difficult part, which is the double use of ära. And what I'm talking about is ära mine ära. Ära mine ära. Ära mine ära. And that means don't go away. If we look at the first example sentence, ära mine ära, it's really easy actually, because we talked about don't and we talked about away. So literally, don't go away. You know which ära is which, because that's how it translates into. So the first ära always in front of the verb, and that is the imperative ära. And the second one is the verb ära. And here it means the movement, right? And to make it more complicated, but I think by now you can totally understand which one is which. And we have two sample sentences. One is söö ära, and the other one is ära söö. We have same words, different placements. So the first one is a command, söö ära, which means eat it all up. And as you know by now, because ära is behind the verb, it's not going to be the imperative one. So it is the verb. And the second case, ära söö, is also command, but now it's a negative one. Don't eat it. So here you already know that ära, that is in front of the verb, is the imperative one. So now you can really differentiate which group is which one. And now to have the final culmination, ära söö ära. And that means don't eat it all up. And you can hear that quite a lot in conversations. This kind of use is very common. So yeah, ära söö ära. We finally made it to the end. So by now you should have quite a good understanding how to differentiate the meaning of ära in different situations and sentences. And I hope that it really helped you a lot. And if you have any other words or grammar points or anything that you're really confused about, do let me know down in comments and I'll do my best to make a video for you. See you in the next video.